I'm live. Now it's on the air, it's live. Okay. Welcome. We are NSFW podcast, Never Safe for Work, for the week of March 25th. Episode something, I don't know. I don't usually do hosting duties. I am Ricky Williams, and I'm joined by
Vince Hui.
Matt Weber, our usual master of ceremonies, is away this week. Hopefully, he will be back next week, so we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program. Um, you can get in contact. Email is info@neversafeforwork.com. Matt's Twitter is MTWB. Vincent's Twitter is VWHUI, and my Twitter is Ricky_Williams1. So yeah, we're gonna jump right in. This week we will be talking about the Apple Watch. So just a little while ago, Apple had their Spring Forward event where they debuted a couple of things, but most notably was the Apple Watch, which was shown off about a year ago. But we didn't have information like battery life, cost, onboard storage, that sort of stuff. So we got all that sort of um, info at the event this year. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand it off to Vince because he's the most Apple hating of the three of us on NSFW. Um,
Well, okay. I
yeah,
don't
so
think it's
like,
gonna be a handoff here. I don't think it's gonna be a handoff here because I want this to be a discourse, man. Because from the get-go, I was not a fan of the watch
okay.
because I can't see anyone paying over $1,000 for at least a stylish version of that watch. Okay, so I mean, for the price that I'd pay there, I could get a couple of iPads like basically, I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't see the benefit of it because it's so what? It's just am I that lazy to like connect myself to my phone that I want to have that accessibility? The key benefits that I see are the kind of health monitoring, and possibly just saving me the instance in that meeting where I can just look at my wrist instead of pull up my phone to check my texts or my messages that are coming through. Or I can go for the chintzy apps. I can feel the heartbeat of my wife or something across the sea, whatever. Why would I want to spend so much money on something that is either a frivolous extra piece, or at best it's an overpriced Fitbit? So Ricky, tell me and convince me, because like, listen, I'm open-minded. I just need to know why you'd want to spend that much money on something that realistically doesn't do all that much more than I can do by lifting up my hand into my pocket.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through a couple of things. Since it was debuted, I know I've listened to a couple podcasts, read a couple of posts on the web and stuff. So I'll go through some of the details, and I'll go through some of my thoughts on what I've read and heard so far. And then I'll tell you what I think of it and why, answering a couple of your questions. Okay. So first of all, there's three models. Apple calls them editions. I call them models. You know. So there's the Sport, which is the cheapest. So there's also two sizes of the watch. There's a 38 millimeter and the 42. 42 is a little bit bigger. You get a little more screen real estate. That's more for people who like bigger watches or have bigger hands or whatever. So there's a 38 millimeter, 42 millimeter, the Sport watch. There are also what are they called? Uh, the accessory, the band, that's it. There are also bands that you can change out, and depending on the cost of that, it will increase the cost of the watch that you get. But base model, cheapest price, and we're Canadian here. Matt's not on, so I'm going through the Canadian prices. Um, you can head to apple.com and you can go to the Apple Watch and go to see Watch on Store, and it will give you all the prices. So here in Canada, we're looking at for the Sport, 38 millimeter is 449. That's the
Yep.
cheapest. The 42 millimeter increases that to 519, so it's a little over $50 more. The next level up is the Apple Watch. So that was the Apple Watch Sport. The next model is the Apple Watch. I believe that one's made out of aluminum. It's a little more, it has better materials. So there, again in Canada, 38 millimeter is 699. 42 millimeter is 779. So that's a difference of $80 between those two. And again, like I said, if you get different bands, that will increase the cost of them.
Mhm.
And then, of course, we get to the watch edition, which is the highest model. There is 18 karat rose gold, or you can get 18 karat gold.
Stupid.
So 38 millimeter is 13K base price, and 42 is 15 and a half K base price. It goes up to about a maximum of 22K. Okay, so after the event, we found out it's gonna get about 18 hours battery life.
Mhm.
You will have to charge it at night. Continuous use, it's gonna give you about 3 hours playing with it, playing on an app. I forgot the exact breakdown as for, talking on it and stuff like that. But again, we have to remember this is a 1.0 device. So, you think back to the very first iPhone compared to the battery life of iPhones now, vastly different.
But just keep in
So,
mind that you're paying pretty much like a cheap car worth for a 1.0. The accessory itself will become kind of obsolete very quickly.
yeah, but we'll get into all that with
Okay.
the watch edition. Um, so that was really what I was gonna jump into next, because that's the one where everyone sort of lost their mind, in American dollars, because that's what they gave it in. It's I think 10K starting out. It goes up to 17K. You had different people saying, who the hell would buy that? Some people saying, if you buy it, you're a douchebag, that sort of stuff. Now, to me, I think that's ridiculous.
To be
Um,
called a douchebag or to actually go spend that
no,
money?
no, for people to say that.
Oh,
If you're gonna buy this model, you already know. Um,
you're a douchebag?
no, no, I'm saying you already know that you're gonna buy this model. Most likely they don't listen to podcasts, they don't read posts. So you're just calling them that because, it's not like your perception of them is gonna mean shit. It's not gonna stop them from buying the watch. We live in a country where we make our money, we can buy what we want. So even though I don't have the money, I'm not gonna begrudge anyone that has the money to buy it. Um, I'm gonna be brutally honest. You got musicians, you got record executives, CEOs, athletes, all types of millionaires who this is like an afterthought.
Yep.
For me, if I had 15 to $20,000, and that I have no extenuating circumstances where I could put that money to that use,
Yep.
I would buy this. For me personally, it wouldn't be a status thing. It would just be that I like it. I
Hmm.
have the money, and there's nothing else that I need the money for. Like, obviously, if I needed it to, pay down my mortgage or, buy a car or
Yeah,
something,
exactly.
I'm talking if I have that disposable income, honestly speaking, I would buy it. Um, some people are going crazy, and I'm like, I don't understand that because Rolexes have existed forever.
Yeah,
Rolexes, you got 60K models, you got $500,000 models, so
right.
why
But
aren't you going crazy about that
I'm
in
not going crazy about
comparison
it
to
because
this?
those
Not
are.
you
Oh,
particularly, I'm just saying
but
people,
okay, but Ricky, I think the reason why is because you can see the craftsmanship and the kind of it's a mechanical piece which in
yeah,
and of
but if
itself
you,
is
if
but
you,
whereas the phone like sorry the kind of electronics thing of it the obsolescence
yeah,
makes it
but see,
something where
the
it's a little bit
obsolescence
outlandish.
doesn't tie into this because that's another silly factor. Yes, you're gonna buy it. Maybe next year or 2 years from now, they're gonna put out a new model. It's not gonna stop this version you buy this year from telling the time. So if
But
you're
just keep in mind,
comparing, no, no, but if you're comparing it to a Rolex, all a Rolex does is tell the time.
yeah.
So it's not fair for you to say, well, this is a timepiece and you can keep it for 10 years and you can hand it down. The new one coming out next year is not going to stop the one you have from telling the time. It's
Um,
going to be more up to date. It's going to have newer features, but comparing it to any other expensive watch, the only thing you can compare it to really is the time factor because that's all the other watches can do. It will still look good on your wrist. It will still tell the time. You will still have it because Apple's not going to come to your house and take it away from you and say, buy the new model.
okay, so let me put it this way then. Okay. Um, you're right that it's a timepiece, fine, but the problem is that if you look at the technology that's in there, right? So are you saying that yeah, 10 years from now it will still tell time? I'm not even sure about that because I don't know if they're gonna do a like one of those crazy changes where I can't use any of my old hardware. Like I look at my
No,
parents and no
come
no
on,
listen no,
look,
no
look,
listen
let
listen
me show you.
hey no no no
Look
no
at this. This is the very first iPhone,
yeah
which you
okay
bought me.
yeah I
I
know
can still turn it on and it will still boot and it
yeah.
will still work.
You're right, but you know
That's
what?
7 years ago.
Except for the fact that I look at my parents,
No,
I look at my parents and I look at their iMacs that they can't use because of their
okay, but see,
no no
now
no
you're
no
going to something different, and
no no
iMac
no
could
no, no,
keep.
but no, but like I'm just talking about their iMacs or even their Mac Minis, where you'd think that all they want to do is just check email, and that's a dumb low like it's a low value proposition, right? But what happens is that they can't upgrade half of their stuff, and you know what? It's sad because they can't even go into iTunes and get to the apps store with their old machines because they wouldn't allow for the software to do that. Now I'm not saying Apple would mess that up again. Apple's known for
No,
making
no,
mistakes,
but
but
what I'm saying to you is, if you're comparing a Rolex or any other expensive watch to an Apple Watch, and you're saying, well, this one's gonna be outdated in a year, what my point is that is not true. You cannot say this Rolex is worth $60,000 and I'm fine with that because in 5 years' time I still have it. My point is that in 5 years' time you will still have that very first Apple Watch.
oh, I know it'll
It
be like a
will
bracelet.
no, but what I'm saying is it will still tell the time. It will still look good on your hand. It
Oh, I
will
don't know about that. It
it
doesn't look good.
will
It
it
doesn't look good
will
now.
still it will still be rose gold, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I agree. I agree.
So
I can go to a pawn shop and
no,
melt it
no,
down. But
but
let's be honest here. You won't be
no, no,
caring
but
about
what,
that.
no, but what I'm saying to you is that if you bring up the computer aspect, that can't play into it because the reason you say those computers can't be upgraded is because of new OSs, which they can't handle. Obviously, the new watch OS 5 years from now, it won't handle that.
You can't
But
do
that still won't stop it from telling time. It will stop it from running apps, but none of the watches you can buy can run those apps anyway, so that's not a fair comparison. And
Okay,
people
so
who
I'm not
can
even looking.
buy
Okay,
this watch, they will have the next model the next year anyway.
okay, no, no, but no,
So,
so now your argument's actually veering, right? Because I'll go with you that I'm comparing, say, I'm looking at a software side that a Rolex doesn't have, and I will agree with you. But here's the problem with it, right? Let's look at as a timepiece, okay? Just as a timepiece, okay? So let's go with the argument that yes, this as just a dumb clock, right? The Apple Watch as just a dumb timepiece. Is it worth that amount of money? No, because the reality is that if you're just looking at the display of time, right, I can get that on anything. And the reality is that the reason why the Rolex or these Tag Heuer watches are so expensive is because there's actually that real awareness and craftsmanship that's in there. Whereas what you got in the Apple Watch is something that's mass produced off of
no, no,
with
but
Chinese. No, just listen to me. Like listen to
yeah,
you. Just, with Chinese slave labor putting this together. Now, are you saying that in 5 years that you're going to say, man, there's got the same cachet that you would have with the Apple Watch as opposed to Rolex? No, because the Apple Watch will be this it'll be this dumb timepiece. Again, I'm looking at just as a timepiece, right? Which still is very dated. It will be. You've got to admit, it will be very dated. Even if you can change out the digital faces or whatever, change out the bands, its physical form, that weird like Fisher Price form, is still going. It's very dated. It's like when you look at something from the 1960s or something from the 1920s, right? It's so dated. And arguably, you're right. You look at a Rolex or something, and they're very they're dated in a certain way, but they're also timeless on another way. The Apple Watch as a design piece, and you know that I'm talking as a design piece, not even as a functional piece of software vehicle, right? It is very stylistically locked, and I would say that in 5 years, it's going to be gone like 80s shoulder pads, right? It'll be like so weird and disjointed that people won't want to be caught dead wearing that. I don't care what kind of face you put on that, it's still going to look messed up. So
okay,
that to me is where it's a
so a couple,
timepiece.
yeah, so a couple of things where I kind of differ with you. So what I was saying, I wasn't when I said that the people who can afford to buy this will own the new model the next year, I wasn't saying that to contradict my point as they'll just throw the first one away. What I'm saying is that they will still own that first one and they may still wear it and it will still tell the time. But as the fact where you were saying the next year it will be obsolete because it doesn't have these features, I'm saying that doesn't matter in this case because they will have the new one that has the features, so they wouldn't care about that.
But you see, that's the
Um,
thing. I'm not trying to talk about like the dispense discretionary
no,
income
no,
that people
I
have to
know.
buy
I
another
was just
device.
no, but see that I think that does play into it because I think people are losing their minds about this when the fact is you wouldn't understand because you don't come from these people's worlds, right?
But
You
okay,
have never had enough money where you could buy a $20,000 dress, wear it once, and then throw it in the back of your closet.
you're right. Okay, but listen, I'm not even talking about the $10,000 watch. I'm talking
Mm.
about just the $1,000 one. I'm not even looking at the crazy
Okay,
watches.
so we'll cover that one.
But I think that's the more
Um,
important one. I think that's the one that stylistically it is interesting. Like I mean, I was looking at the like $1,500 or $1,300 watches. Those look nice, but I still wouldn't pay for them because I can go to a Philip Stark site and get a nice Philip Stark watch for like $150.
okay, so when you brought that point up, right, here's the problem that I have with that. The same person who owns a Rolex, I can go into any store and buy a Casio, a Swatch for 20 bucks. It tells the same time as the guy beside me in the Rolex.
Right? Mhm.
So that is the same argument as saying, okay, this Apple Watch tells the time. I can go get any other watch that, for half the price of this thing or an eighth of the price. It's the same argument.
What do you
So
mean?
can I, compared to a Rolex, I can get a Casio for 100th of the price, and they both do the exact same function. They tell the time.
Yeah, but
Yes,
that
I know the Rolex has a brand cachet. It has a status, but so does the Apple Watch, or it will. People will see it and they'll say, "Oh, that's an Apple Watch." Wow. Um, but anyways, I just wanted to talk about that part. I don't think we're gonna stick around on it because, like I said, the people who know they can afford that watch already know if they want it or not. Um, the way I see the sport and the watch, which the naming I think is kind of silly because how can you have a watch sport, a
should
watch, and then a watch edition? Like they should have had a fucking name for the watch
they should let the
version,
Chinese guys make the fucking names.
right?
Because
Like,
like they make them and now they actually name them. Jeez.
yeah, it's like you should have had like watch sport, watch leisure, I don't know, whatever the fuck you want to call it, watch second tier. I mean, but
Yeah, they
anyway,
should have said
whatever.
like S, L, and E or something. Like
Yeah,
like
it's
the
kind of,
Mercedes or something.
yeah. But anyways, apart from that, for me personally, um, I'm not gonna tell anyone, yes, go and get it or don't. For me personally, I would like one. I don't think I'll be able to get one this year, but that's, a function of I usually update my iPhone every other year, and since the 5, I've updated every single year. So this year, I don't think I'm gonna have that $8 or $1,000 to spend on the watch.
Oh, jeez, you
But
poor bastard.
well, here's the thing, right? When the iPad came out, it was the same thing for me. People I talked to would say, "Oh, it's just an iPad. It's just a bigger version of the iPhone. What the hell am I gonna do with that?" And like for me, I personally saw it, and right away I was like, "Yes, I can do this and this and this. I want it." And I bought
Mhm.
it. And look at it now. So many people own them. They own the minis. You see them everywhere. Where was that attitude of what the hell am I gonna do with this, right? I think looking at the watch now, like we've said, it's a 1.0
Yep.
model. I think the thing that's gonna come in is once the app developers are able to do things with it beyond the feeling your heartbeat and the little things that it does now, I think that's when people are really just like the iPad, when those apps start coming in, that's when people are really gonna, use it. But for me personally, you wanted me to tell you like why would I
Yeah.
buy this thing? Okay, number one, I wear a Fitbit and it's like I like it, right? The problem I have with my Fitbit is I don't take it to the gym because once I left it on my gym shorts and it almost ended up in the watch because I forgot.
Isn't it waterproof?
No,
You can't swim with it?
no. Well, it may be, water resistant,
Huh.
so it resists like sweat or whatever, but if you put it in the wash, it's toast,
Huh.
right? So that's a problem for me. Sometimes when I change my pants, I forget to switch it over. That's a day's activity that I lose. And some people might say, who cares? But for someone who that's important to, you know what I mean? It's like people who drink Starbucks coffee. I don't, and I look at it and I'm like, why the hell would you drink that? People who drink it, they enjoy it. That's why they buy it. So that's one aspect where if I'm wearing a watch, I'm not gonna forget. It's not gonna end up in the wash cycle. I'm not gonna forget when I change my pants. You know what I mean? It makes life easier for me in that regard. Um, there's a post that I read through where a guy who has an Apple Watch goes through all the things he could do with it for the day. Things like for me in the winter, I'm walking to the station or whatever, my wife calls me or, texts me, or I'm listening to a podcast or a song and I want to switch.
Mhm.
I have to take my stupid phone out. I don't want to do that because it's freaking cold. You know what I mean? I'm sitting on the GO train. I'm listening to a song, I want to change the song, I have to take it out of my pocket.
But don't you
And
have the earbuds with the kind of little
the clicky click, yeah, but sometimes you don't want the very next song, or you have it on shuffle. You want to specifically go through the playlist or whatever. And people might say, oh, oh my God, like, is that so much trouble? But when you think to yourself back when people were using mobile phones, dumb phones, and there were no tablets like we have today, there was no browsing the internet while you're sitting on the train. There was no answering emails while you're sitting on the train unless you had, a laptop sitting there. So you can't look and say, oh, you know what I mean? Like, yes, it's more convenient. That's the point of it. That's the point. That's the things that I see that I can say, yes, that will make my life easier. That's why I want this thing. It's not going to be the same for everyone, but my point is, if you can see that benefit and you can afford it,
Mhm.
buy it. You know what I mean?
But again, that's not the, a lot of the comments that you made about why you would want it are just like, I mean, it doesn't really negate the position that I have, which is, look, man, is it just that much more of an inconvenience to use your hand? Like, I mean, is it worth the $1,000, okay, for the decent looking watch to, validate, the fact that I don't have to shuffle my tracks
Yeah,
with.
but see, that's what I was saying. You know, is it really worth $1,000 for me to buy an iPhone instead of just carrying around a dumb phone? Because I can still make the same calls on it. I can still do text messaging on it.
Well,
Right?
no, because
Like it's the convenience of answering emails, browsing the web, all these apps that I can use like Instagram, Facebook, um, like you can't really say, I know some people use iPhones for productivity, but come on, if we're gonna get real here, I'm not gonna be doing a Word document sitting on the GO train. So really, is it worth that $1,000 for me? Yes, it is for the convenience, right? I could have taken that $1,000 and put it towards a laptop to do the same things, but it's not as small. It doesn't fit in my pocket, and so the same. I'm just saying, like if you don't see where that convenience is worth it, I don't have a problem with that. But I see that convenience, and to me, it's worth it.
you know what, that's a personal preference, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, if, again, it's a personal preference for me. I cannot validate, and you can get it for all the conveniences that you want, but I cannot validate spending over $1,000 on something that, again, maybe I just have no problem with the music I listen to, so I don't mind
Yeah,
shuffling to
but
the next
see,
track.
that's the thing, right? It is a personal thing,
And I mean,
right?
like,
Like
let's be honest,
like
we
for instance, to show you, when I go over to my dad's place, he still has a flip phone. And when I sit there and I'm on Facebook or I answer emails or whatever, he looks at me like, I mean, he doesn't look at me like I'm a moron, but if he weren't my father, that's probably what he would be saying. Because to him, he's got a phone where he can make calls and do text messaging. So he doesn't give a shit that I can go on Facebook and I can go on Twitter and I can answer emails. He doesn't care about that. So when I tell him I pay $1,000 for it, he's gonna look at me like, what the hell, or you know what I mean? So anything you think about is a personal preference. Anything you can think of. It's the very
Yeah,
same
and that,
if
dude,
you
I
get
agree with you.
like,
That's what I'm saying. Like, I agree with you 100%.
yeah,
That's why I'm saying, like, you can have that opinion. I have my opinion because maybe I'm like your dad, and I just don't. It's like, I mean, no, honestly, I can see
you
the
think
value of
everyone's
it.
an idiot that buys
No,
with a watch.
if it was 50, yeah, exactly. If it was $50, I mean, I'd pick it up, and I would only use like maybe one or two more of the functions. I'd be like, oh, cool. Now I can see if I want to have a heart attack, right? But moving forward, I mean, let's be honest here. You would want to get it, but I'm not sure if you would get it. If at the price point it is right now, I wouldn't get it just because I don't see the value of it from a personal, application. But moving forward, what would you like to see in the next version, next year's Apple Watch?
I think I think number one for me, what I think I would really like to see, and I'm sure there are a lot of people like that, is for them to cut the tether between the
Phone.
watch and the phone.
Um,
Make it more independent where I'm not saying for things like calls, obviously the battery life is not going to handle it.
you're
But for
killing a lot of
things like
processing. You're killing a lot of like capacity. I mean, but doing that, you're not just killing phone access, though, right?
no, no, it's still gonna like when you link it with the phone, it can do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But right now, let's say you leave the phone at home and you're on the road, you can no longer get text messages,
Yep.
right? Because it needs that link to the phone.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying is that for some things, what I would like to see is for them to, make it more robust,
Well,
make
actually,
it be
Rick,
able to do more.
Ricky, can you correct me if I'm wrong? But you're telling me then that it has no autonomous Wi-Fi connectability? Because I know it has a Bluetooth connectivity, right?
Yeah, I think it might have Wi-Fi. I don't think so,
Which,
but it might.
if it
But it
does,
has
then
it has no LTE.
oh, okay. Because I'm thinking, if I'm like in my office and I leave my phone in like say my desk, but I'm like in a meeting without my phone, right?
As long as you're close by and it will have the connection, you should be okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm just wondering
Um,
like if I can just if it was like because I
oh,
know that
like if it has Wi-Fi or
yeah,
something,
because if
then
it
it
connects
would.
through Bluetooth, right?
Yeah,
It's not like my office has like Bluetooth like network, but I mean I know some of my computers
yeah,
have
yeah.
it, and I know like
Okay, so
this.
I'll look it up and I'll tell you because I don't
Because that would
even.
actually make it an okay device. Because then, like, I might not be able to make phone calls, but at least I can keep my, notifications on emails, on text.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And then I don't have to carry my phone with me while I'm in my own house. You know what I mean? Like in my pocket all
Yeah.
the time, right?
Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna see if I can get the uh the specs on it.
And
Probably not yet.
and then my other issue was just like, we're talking about improvements. One of
Yeah,
the improvements that I like how when the phone came out, everyone was making all these things about like what they'd like to see in it. Did you see
yeah.
the apps that they're thinking about?
So let's
Like you have the Dick Tracy app, like.
oh
But the thing that's really cool was I like someone was like, no, no, man, you know what? $1 million idea? The app that says when you die, like if it, because it's like a Fitbit, right? So
yeah.
if it detects that you're dead, it wipes all the internet history on all your computers.
Well, that's pretty smart.
I know, but I was like, yeah,
Um,
that is $1 million idea right there.
yeah, I can't find. I don't. I'm not gonna say anything because I'm not too sure about the Wi-Fi capability. Um,
I would also think that it's still, to me, it's quite chunky. I mean, this is coming from a design side. You can probably say as
yeah.
much too.
Well, I
It's
mean,
real,
for me, I can't really speak as like you. I know, obviously, you can speak to it.
not really. I don't design
Um,
watches, but I'm just saying, like, as a
but I
design
mean,
person.
you're more design centric. Um, but I think the thing is, if you look at the other smart watches that are on the market, I think it's less chunky. And again, we have to go to that it's a 1.0 model. I'm sure over time, as battery tech gets better, they're gonna make it, slimmer and thinner and all the usual stuff, right? So, you know,
Hmm.
um, so I
Um,
mean,
so to me, again, aside from the design thing, I mean, just like it's not just simply aesthetics. I think it's also like functionality. Like it still looks too chunky. Like even the sport version with the rubber band, like around it, it still looks a lot more chunky than it really should be.
yeah,
Maybe it's just a function of trying to make sure that screen is so big ass. I think that they'll make a greater polarity between the screens. Like, this is one of the few instances where Apple actually measures things in millimeters, and to get 4 millimeters of difference for the amount of price that you're paying, I think they're going to go for a greater, like, they're going to go for maybe a 52 and a 38. Like, at least
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was a greater
yeah,
spectrum, because I think there's still too much, 4 millimeter difference on the screen size. Like, I mean,
yeah.
if your hands are
But
fat, your hands are
but
still fat.
remember that I think I heard that the measurement is actually the vertical.
Yeah,
It's
it's top to
not.
top. Yeah, it's top
Yeah.
to top. Yeah.
So
But still, man, that's still not a heck of a
I
lot,
I
right?
mean, yeah, I
And
guess.
and I'm actually quite surprised that they went with something like it's a portrait oriented a watch, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
surprised they didn't give that greater flexibility to mount it other ways too, because like some people have
All right.
really
Yeah,
small wrists, and
yeah.
like I have had
So
where
like a
watches that,
pocket watch or
yeah, or like pocket watches, or like even horizontal watches, or like
yeah.
I've seen people wear watches so it's like on their wrist, on the inside of their
Oh
wrist, and
yeah,
they,
yeah, yeah.
like, I mean, so I can see a lot of better opportunities. I'm also surprised that they really haven't talked about, like, how when the iPad came out, people were talking about mirroring and using it as an extra screen or using it as a like extra mouse pad. I'm really surprised that we haven't seen. Maybe again the apps have yet to come out, or I don't know them. But like I would be okay with the fact that I could use gesture control for like PowerPoint presentations. I can just go like, see the next slide, the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
slide, this one, right? Or like
Well, I'm pretty
basic.
sure that I mean, third-party app developers will do that, or Apple's
But
working on
does
it
it
already.
have gyroscopic sensitivity, or I thought it just
I'm
detected
pretty
heart?
sure it does, right? Because it does the activity, right? Like they say when they compare it to other fitness trackers, they say like if you're on the treadmill, if you're on the stationary bike, it will be more accurate than other fitness, because it knows when you're going, up and down and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, but that's
So,
just jostling as opposed to like real orientation, right?
yeah,
So I'm just thinking like if I were to like hold my hand up, it would go, okay, I'm gonna reorient. I realize that his hand's up, so I'm gonna stop the presentation, right? Like doing stuff like that,
yeah,
that'd be
like
cool for me.
gesture
Or like you've
based
seen those ring
control.
controllers, like you do this and you gesture and you can actually like,
Yeah,
do finger painting on your screen. That's another thing that I really am surprised that they haven't quite dealt with, right? Like as a guy who gives lectures like at least once a day, if not more, right? I am
yeah,
really open to and receptive to the possibilities of like using it as a controller for my my talks, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, that's the stuff that I would like to see a little bit more.
yeah. All right. Well, I think we're gonna leave it off there. So you guys know how to get in touch with us, and next week when Matt's back, hopefully he will be back. We should be covering the Civil War arc, the comics in the comics.
It's coming into the
Um,
movies too,
yep.
ever so
So
slowly. Now that we got Spider-Man.
I think Matt's scared. It's so big he doesn't want to cover it.
Come on, it's a fun story, man, and it's poignant. Well, it's actually more poignant about 10 years ago, but
Well,
still.
yeah, that's the thing I was gonna say, because we were supposed to cover it today, and with the whole political
C-41.
climate right now with security and stuff, it really, but we wanted to get Matt's take on it, so we're gonna wait till next week.
Yeah.
So,
See, my call is the whole Canadian government with the bill on
yeah,
terrorism. That's the one that I thought was kind of topical to like make the
yeah,
comparisons.
yeah,
Because we're all freaking about in Canada about this, whereas in America they're like, nope, yeah, let's pass this stuff, and like anyone with a turban or anyone with like a hijab, well, they're terrorists, man.
So stay tuned, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Good job, Rick.